Hello, everybody. Hello, Lorie.
Hi, good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for saying yes to this interview. We're so excited to have you here today so we could talk to us and tell us all about your book that we're going to publish very soon, in the next couple of weeks, really. And we're talking about the book called Divine Design, and you have it with you. So, can you show us?
Yeah.
Lovely. That's the one.
Yay.
Thank you so much for being here. We have loads of questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm fire away. I am ready.
Brilliant. So, the easiest one, really. How did you go about writing this book? Because we understand it took more than just one single event at Machu Picchu, right?
Yes.
In the book, we read that the energetic essence of this text came to you during your visit to Peru. But what happened before and after that? Why did you think you were chosen to undertake this task, and how did it really happen? Just briefly tell us how the divine design came to be written.
Yeah, it's a great question. I love sharing this story because it's so wild. It's like you never know what, the universe, what God's going to offer you. You don't really know till it's dropped into your lap. But I was invited to go to Peru, to Machu Picchu, with a guy I was dating. I wasn't ever planning on going to Machu Picchu. I had no calling. It wasn't like, I got this sign that I needed to go to Machu Picchu. It was, this guy that I was dating. He's like, "Hey, you want to go to Machu Picchu?" I was like, "I've never been." Like, sure, and that was in 2018. So we took a trip, and I had already been channeling for a while, so I knew how to kind of channel energies and higher dimensional consciousnesses. So I was just excited to go and kind of see what I would feel. So I didn't really know I would be writing a book. Definitely not this book at all. And so when we were driving up the bus, it's like a really long, windy road. I just started getting like a massive kind of download, which is like an energetic. It starts with the body. The body started to like really vibrate, and then I just heard these voices right when we were at the very top of the mountain about to get off. I heard these voices say, "You're going to write a book about the history of Earth and humanity, and you're going to go all over the world and talk about it." And I'm like, and it was a very loud voice. It was like a TV turned on. And I was like, I turned to the guy I was dating. I was like, something's happening right now, and I have to walk around this land by myself. So I took off by myself and sat, and I just started. They were talking to me as I was walking through Machu Picchu, and they had me sit, and they just started sharing this information. And I was using like a voice recorder on my phone. Just kind of, they would talk and I would repeat what they were saying. And it really kind of dropped, the whole book sort of dropped in this moment, but it was such a complex, complicated book that when I got home, I started to draw out the outline, because it's very much like a movie. The book it kind of feels like a movie to me, like a Star Wars or Star Trek movie, in a way. And so I drew, and I still have the drawing. I should have found it for this interview. It's a wild drawing, but I drew out the outline of the book. So it was like how Earth started, and then how it was in this fifth dimensional space. And anyway, there was all these pictures of the outline of the book. And then I sat and started to download it. And so I saw each chapter, I knew what it was, and I would just sit and the information would come through. And because it was so complex, and it was, I was told not to go research any information that came in. So it was really just me trying to figure out what all this means. So I did diagrams and pictures, and sometimes I would spend a week just trying to figure out this concept they just gave me, because they would drop it to me like in this bigger perspective. It was almost like somebody giving you a math equation and you're like, I don't know, I have to unravel this math. I have to like figure out the math equation and break it down. That was how the book was. So I wrote it in about 9 months, and then I edited it for about 2 years because there was so much information that came through, and I had to clean it up and make it really concise so that somebody could read it, make it make sense. It was not easy. It was not easy. There were moments where it was really enjoyable because of all the information, but it was also very difficult. It was very difficult. But yeah, so that's how it came about. I had no idea. And why did they choose me? I mean, as a soul, I chose to come down and make an impact. And I probably chose as a soul, you know, to write something like this. But I asked my guides this question maybe 2 years ago. I said, why me? Like, why did I write this book? And why am I going to write more books about this? And they said, well, you're not special. Like, so what they said was like, we try to connect with a lot of different souls that have agreed to be of service in this lifetime. And very few hear it or follow it or trust it. Or, you know, we have all of our personality. So we have our doubts, our insecurities. We have life that's taken over. We have children or another job, or there's so many things in life that can make it more difficult for the human to follow that deeper guidance. They said, you said you followed it. I was like, that's it? Like, yeah, you followed you heard the call, you followed the call, you trusted it, and you did it. So, you know, I think sometimes we think that we're one of, you know, I'm the chosen one, or this person's the chosen one, or it's not necessarily like that. There's too much of a gamble on the planet to just put it up to like, just give it to one person. It's like, who's going to have the capabilities to follow through on a planet that is so chaotic? And, you know, when you drop down in as a soul, you're good luck. Hopefully you hear the calls. Hopefully you hear the guidance, you know.
Lovely. So it's nearly like the idea is flying around from one soul to another, and whoever picked this up is just doing it, going forward with it.
Yeah, whoever picks it up and whoever follows through with it, right? Like, yeah, and whoever trusts what they're hearing. And you know, it's kind of like if you put all your eggs in one basket, the guidance up there isn't going to put their eggs in one basket and hope this one human does it. You know, they're like, okay, maybe this one will do it, you know. And so, and then somebody will ask, maybe in this interview, they're watching and they're like, well, why would these guides, these beings care? And these specific beings were the Galactic Federation of Light, and they are Earth's guardians. And so they needed this message out. They needed humanity to hear this message, to remember this message. They needed humanity to remember their roots and where they came from and how this whole thing got started and where it's going. And they were doing it for Earth and for humanity, but much more for Earth and her process and her journey, because the more that humans wake up to the remembrance of this, the easier it will be for this entire sort of experiment, the evolution in consciousness. It will be a tad bit easier, perhaps. So, you know, that's why this book was so important to get out. I think for them was getting that message.
Yeah. And you mentioned the trust, that whoever trusted it as well. About that, did you experience moments of doubt or skepticism about the informations you were receiving? How did you deal with them, if you had any?
I had all of it. I had all of it come up all the time. When I was writing it, I had never heard this information anywhere. And it was wild. You know, if you read the book, you're like, oh, this is a bit wild here. Like, what? Again, it's very much like a science fiction movie at times. Yeah, I was extremely skeptical and insecure and nervous. but I knew I was on assignment. So it was almost like you had a job to do. And so it wasn't your job to kind of ask questions. You just had to do the job and deal with all the human emotions. Just keep your head down and finish the job while you have all of the human experiences around it. And, unfortunately, because I do have a lot of insecurity around my work and how I show up. I mean, not anymore. I've really worked through it this year, not by choice, but by being pummeled into it. I'm embracing the book much more. But when it was published in 2022, in August, I was quiet. I didn't talk much about it. I didn't have the confidence of the book. It wasn't that I didn't believe in the book, because I believe in the book. I believe in every single thing that came through. But it was extremely difficult to show up and start talking about it. And it's taken about 2 years, a little over 2 years. I mean, I'm just now really feeling like I need to start to really get this book out. And the book is moving throughout the world on its own, which is what they told me it would do. But it was really rough. It was tough. Now the collective consciousness is at a higher level. So the book can be digested a little bit easier with people. 2 years ago, 2 years ago when it came out, I had so many friends that were like, Lorie, I could not read your book 2 years ago. And now they can read it. So it's really fascinating to understand and see the implications of this evolution. Like, it really does impact your ability to, your awareness, what you want to digest and take in, and what you understand.
But did you yourself had the doubt? You weren't sure if that was the truth? Do you know what I'm saying? Did you wonder, who are these beings? Do they really want well for the earth?
It's a real interesting question what you're asking, because the frequency on the planet is different now than it was in 2018. And that's important because there's not as much, I'll say, distortion as there is now. So what that means is that when the frequency on the planet increases, the veils between realms get thinner. We can access different realms much easier. And realms meaning energies that might not be for our highest good. And what that means is that there can be a lot of confusion over what you're hearing, what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong. That's why we're starting to have a lot more discernment over, is this really important and for our highest good? Are these really, are these messages and these beings for us? Or so we're starting to question that more and more and have discernment, as we should. In 2018, it was a very different frequency. When I connected, it was very clear. It was very clean. It was very obvious. It was like, I don't channel very much anymore. And I don't channel because of what's around us, that it's very tricky energies now, And so I not only do I hardly channel, but I've been guided not to channel anymore. So to answer your question, back in 2018, it was very clear. It was very beautiful energy. It was a very powerful book this book will be like one of the kind of resources that humanity in 50 years will have access to, in terms of what is this and what are we doing here? It's a very fundamental it's a foundational, fundamental book. And so from that perspective, no, I don't think that there was any harm in what was coming through. Do I believe that now in terms of what may be coming through? I think we have to be very discerning, and very clear on why we are doing what we're doing in terms of teachers and writers and channelers. Like, why are you actually doing this? Where is it coming from? Where is it stemming from? What's your focus on? What's your why behind it? And really getting clear on that, because it's going to get real foggy, hazy in terms of information and distractions and all of that. So, you know, it's a real big responsibility if you're using your voice to share information right now on the planet. It's extremely important that it is very, very aligned and clear.
You said earlier on that it's now you feel very strongly that it's important this book is going to go around the world and this message is going to be out there. What's so crucial in this book? What's the message, the main message you would like people to take out of it?
What's most important about this book, and I will stand by it until, you know, until I pass, is that it is the foundation of why you incarnated at this time. So we didn't just come onto this planet in this massive evolutionary shift, chaotic evolutionary shift in consciousness, just to kind of experience it. You know, a majority of us came in to really be a part of it in some way. Like it was a real intention that our soul had to be a part of it, and being a part of it doesn't mean that you're some sort of like, you know, whatever. It just means that you are actively participating in this evolution with awareness, and that you chose it. And then it becomes, well, what is that evolution? And it's like, well, if you want to read the science fiction kind of true little story that we brought in, here's one way you can look at it. But the book, The Divine Design, does give you a foundational understanding of like, well, what is DNA? Like, and how did the body get created? And like, well, why would we have fallen down into a third dimension? And what is the third dimension? And so it gives you an understanding of different dimensions and how dimensions work and how the body was created and how it's designed to help you in every way. And, you know, how our body processes emotion and, you know, some of the things that happened 5,000 years ago that were really, you know, detrimental in our history. And so it just gives a little background of like what this whole thing is about, but then you just go live your life. You go to the post office, you go to the bank, you know, but you just have this like wild remembrance of like, whoa, this is crazy.
And in your book, you talk about the transition from 3D to 5D, right? Just briefly, are there any key signs indicating that someone is starting to live in higher vibrations like 4D, 5D? Because I think this book is important also because of those informations, not just about the history, but also about what's happening right now with every single one of us. So what are the main signs? Because like some people are just at the very start of this journey, understanding of what's happening.
The way I like to kind of break down 3D to 5D, because it's like the buzzwords right now that are being thrown around, and there's all these different ways of seeing it, but really it's just new ways of being. You're going to start experiencing a new lens. You're going to see the world. You're going to start seeing the world differently. You're going to start experiencing the world differently, and you're not in control of it. So that's the thing. You're not going to choose to be in it. You can't choose to be in 5D. You can't choose to go through this evolution. You're just in it, and it takes you. It's like you're in the river, right? And you're now all of a sudden you have no control, right? So you have an awareness, and you're learning, and you're grabbing information, and you're reading books, and you're trying to find people that are in the same river and going through the same rapids as you. But it's very much a feeling of not really being in control. So that, number one, is one of the greatest signs that you are currently in, you know, a massive shift, is that you're starting to realize, I didn't ask for this. Like, I don't know what this is, what's happening in my body, what's happening with my friends, what's happening with my job. Like, why am I all of a sudden not resonating with this anymore? Why am I feeling more emotions than I ever have? Why are my thoughts getting louder and louder? Why am I feeling this need to quiet, to go sit in nature more than I ever have? Why am I walking into stores or places and starting to feel, you know, like I'm here, but not here. You know, you have this weird kind of feeling of like, okay, I'm here, but I'm also not really participating. But that weird kind of in and out space, that's wild when you start experiencing it. And again, there's thousands of experiences that can be explained in terms of the body shifting a frequency in it, which is energy, which gives you a different way of being in the world. So it's really not, it's not us doing it. It's the body shifting in frequency or energy. And when it does that, it's giving us different ways of being in the world. It also pummels us. So it brings you into some really dark places. It drops you to your knees. You start to understand the relationship with your body and what the body's really designed to do. And many times we have to be, and I use the word pummel because it's literally like you're being thrown against the floor, the ground, until you're just like, okay, I'm done. I'm not gonna argue anymore. I'm not gonna wrestle with you anymore. I'm surrendering to it. But it takes the human a long time to sort of let go. Change is very difficult for humans. Change is the only thing that's constant when you're moving through this evolution. So the poor, beautiful, incredible, precious human is, you know, they think that their world's ending over and over again because of all the different experiences they're having, but it's just simply this incredible shift in awareness and in frequency. But it doesn't always feel that way, you know? We're in a phase right now where it's a little tumultuous.
Tell me, what role do challenges, traumas, and difficulties we encounter in life play in this process?
The reason we suffer, right, is because we don't want to be in what we're in. That's why there's suffering. You suffer because you don't want to be in what you're in. So I want you to imagine that you're literally a raft in a river. So there's a raft and you're watching the raft go down the river. You're up on a mountaintop and you're just watching it. Okay. And the raft has no choice as to what's coming on some level, right? Like, it's like, I'm going down this river. There's going to be bumps. There's going to be big rocks and boulders. That's life. There's an aspect of life that you cannot control. And if you start trying to control life, which is what we do, then you're going to be in suffering most of your life. You're going to be trying to get out of what you're in, which is great. Humans can do that. We know how to do that. We're really good at that, right? But you're efforting and suffering most of your life until you get to a place where you really like, and then you're like, oh, this is what life's all about. Now I'm okay. Well, what happens when the next rapid comes? You're going to suffer. You're going to try to get out of it. And so our natural state of being is this flow state, which is just, oh, I'm now in challenge. Wow. And can you be in challenge in the same expanded way as you are with great, amazing things happening? It doesn't feel the same because it's a different energy. So when you're going down rapids, it's going to feel more stressful, more anxious in your body. You're going to be tight. You're going to be really focused. You're going to, right? And then when you get to a part of the river where it's like super chill, you're going to feel differently. So it doesn't have to feel the same, but we are not here to feel one specific thing for the rest of our lives. Like, it's got to be easy and chill, and that's what this is all about. Like, no, life is not going to ever do that, ever. Even in 5D, you're just in 5D, you're navigating the world from a very different state. So the world doesn't change, the river doesn't change. How you are experiencing or being in it changes. So you are now realizing that peace and calm and ease are here at all times. Love, openness, expansion, abundance, it's here at all times. It has never gone anywhere. And now we are learning we're practicing and learning how to be in those states no matter what happens in the river. And that is the current place we're at in the evolution. So it's not about, oh my God, I don't want to suffer or struggle anymore, or have challenges, or have heartbreak, or have pain in the body, or be sick, or those things are going to come and go. Welcome to life. It's not a reflection of who you are. It's a gift. It's gifting you an opportunity to see how you view the world and how you're in it, and different or new ways of being in it. It makes all the sense in the world that we want out of what we're in, because it doesn't feel good. It's just that there's nowhere to go. And so you have to just move through everything. But you're also creating, and you're intending, and you're choosing thought, and you're allowing emotion to move through. And it gets more intense as we evolve and increase frequency. It gets more intense. It gets more activating. It gets more, but it also gets more calm. It gets more peaceful. Your emotions may intensify when you go out in the world. You may feel way more lonely, but on the flip side of that, there is a lot more calm and joy and peace that you can feel if you open to that. We have been programmed to sort of focus on what isn't okay, and it's like, well, what's on the other side of that coin? Meaning, if I'm feeling a lot more, if I'm more agitated, more irritable, more frustrated, more emotional, if I'm feeling more pain in my body, there's got to be something incredible happening as well. And what is that? That's how I see my life. Like, the darker it gets, I'm like, wow, there is something massive happening. I can't wait to see what this is going to show me. That's how I see it. It's not fun. I don't like it. But I always know that I'm being shown what's next in this evolution. Like, well, wow, what is this going to take? Where's this going to take me? What information am I going to get from this? In terms of being, I was sick. I was really sick for 2 months. And I'm like, okay, I'm not used to this. Like, what is this? And navigating new ways of being in it, a closer relationship with my body, a deeper understanding of like really intense, almost demonic thoughts that are not mine, that are coming in, like all kinds of new awarenesses that I didn't have had it not been for being sick for 2 months. And so you want to really pay attention to the lens you're using, because nothing's happening to hurt you. Nothing's happening to create suffering or struggle in your life. The river's not trying to make it more difficult for you. It makes no sense. The river is just the river. The evolution is just the evolution. It's just happening, and it's going to pummel you. It's going to move you all over the place. Life isn't out to get people. You're not the victim to the river. You're in a river. You're a miraculous soul that's like, I'm in, let's go. What's going to happen next? Everything's showing you what you need to see, so that you can see it in new ways, so that you can learn how to be in this and practice being in this. And that's a new lens that you could move that back to, like, what's it like going from 3D to 5D? It's this. It's really recognizing that life is not out to get you. And that as hard as it is right now, because trust me, I am very aware of what is going on this, like what people are dealing with. I mean, I went through something that probably one of the most horrific, crazy experiences of my life on Wednesday night. And I came out of it and I'm like, let's go. Like, the awareness and the lens I have around what's happening is just expanded, because I went to such a real dark kind of like underbelly world with this on this planet. And so everything is gifting you an opportunity, to be in different ways and in new ways. And that's a real, it's very difficult to embrace that right now, but it's true.
You mentioned memory encoded in the cells of our bodies. How can we access those memories? Is it an intuitive process, or does it require practice? Or
light is information. Energy is information. You have these light codes, which is just information that are in your what we would call DNA, which is just stored light codes. That's all DNA is. And it gets activated on its own. So again, if you try to activate your DNA or these light codes or these memories, you're going to find yourself in suffering. You just will, because you're going to try to get somewhere. You're going to try to find something. You're going to want a something. And that's okay. And when you're in that state, just have compassion for yourself and awareness. Like, oh, I'm trying to get codes. I'm trying to get information, and just smile and laugh at yourself and be okay with it. But the human persona, the one that likes to be in control and wants to have certain experiences, can't activate. No matter how many activations you do, it can't activate it. The body's natural ability to increase in frequency activates those memories. And so the next thing you know, you start having these memories. The next thing you know, you're like, oh, I feel like I know these things, and I don't know how I know them all of a sudden. It's just, they start to just pop out in front of you, and you're just starting to recognize things and have information about things, or just knowingness about things. And you're like, it just starts to happen. I mean, you can help. You can try to do, activations and things like that. I mean, I do them all the time, and it can move the awareness to oh, there's light codes. Oh, there's memories. Oh, there's stuff happening. So your awareness can shift into something's going on here. What is it? And so you start to focus on it, and then it starts to be shown to you. Yeah. And that's powerful when you can shift your focus, having that awareness of like, oh, there's information in me that stores memories, and what is that, and where is that? And so hold the balance between the knowledge and information and awareness, and I want to do it, I want to get something, I want to experience something, let that
go. So it's nearly about curiosity and being open and just letting things be, by just thinking about it, being aware of it. You're doing it. It happens for you.
100, exactly. Curiosity is one of the best tools you can have right now in what we're in. Get curious. Just get curious. Curiosity is the opposite of attachment. So, when someone says, oh, don't be attached to something, it's really difficult for us, because we're like, well, what? I'm not supposed to have desires. I'm not supposed to have, non-attachment. It's like, no, instead of attaching to some sort of outcome or expectation or strong desire you have, get curious. I'm so curious about that. Curiosity immediately puts you into a receptive, expansive state. Instantly, it drops you into that. Like when you're sick, oh, I'm curious about this. Boom, you open. As opposed to, I don't want this. I want this. I want it to be like this. You're restrictive. Feel into that. Curiosity is huge. Huge.
Is there a possibility that by reading your book, by reading the Divine Design, some codes might be activated?
100%. Like, so much happens when even if you just hold the book in your hand, it's like, because this book was written with codes. This book was written, it's an activation. That's what this book is. It's an activation, because this is your history, meaning your soul's history. So you don't remember this as, the human that you are right now necessarily, but your soul knows it. And the information that is in your body knows this. The light codes that created your body and that created your ability to shift frequency, it knows all of this. So it's not a knowingness in the mind. It's not like knowledge necessarily, like, oh, I have to learn this and understand this. You don't. But it's doing something in your body. And so it activates your knowingnesses, your awarenesses, those codes inside of you. Something happens. And a lot of people will pick it up and like, they'll know they're not ready to open it yet. So they're like, I'm going to just place it aside. And then like 3 months later, they're like, okay, now I'm ready to open it. And I'm like, how did you even know you weren't ready to open it? Like what told you weren't, right? The body's like, nope, not yet. And then the body's like, yep, now. So it's all an experience with the body when you pick this book up. It's a DNA cellular remembrance that turns on. In 50 years, they said this book will be on every coffee table. That's basically what they said to me, but it's going to take, obviously not 50 years, but many years from now, it will eventually be a book that the majority of humanity will be able to pick up and read. And it's a foundational activation. It's a foundational piece to turning us on. That's how I see it. It's like, it doesn't really matter if you fully grasp what's in here, although a lot of you will. It doesn't matter. It's all that matters is that you've got it, you're holding it, and your soul is nudging you to turn on. And then when you turn on, then different dominoes unravel in your life, right? It's not a manual. It is a switch. It's like this is why it's like, no, this is more like the foundation you stand on. It's almost like when you stand on the book, then you turn on and you're like, doop, now you're on. And then you're starting to do life from this aware kind of activated place. And again, it's not a foundation of like tons of knowledge. It's a foundation of a knowingness, like a remembrance of who you are. Oh, this book, you may resonate with chapter 7 and not resonate with chapter 9. It doesn't matter. You've been activated. It isn't about what you like or don't like about this book. It doesn't matter what you agree with or don't agree with. It's that this book has this ability to activate you.
Wow.
Yeah. It's powerful.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Do you believe that current time on Earth is a pivot moment in human history? If so, why now?
I mean, yeah, the phase or the tunnel that we're in right now is the physical shift can last God knows how long, a very long time, but it's the body shifting frequency. So that's the phase that we're in right now. The actual physical body is increasing in frequency in a way that we are now feeling. So we're now actually physically experiencing the shift in consciousness, the evolution, whatever the word you want to use. And this phase is a doozy. It's a real doozy because it pummels you back into the body, which is where we've been programmed not to be. And when you come back into the body, again, this is not a choice. You're not raising your hand saying, because we don't know what we're doing. So we're not like, hey, I would like to now step into that phase called physical evolution, where I jump into the body more and more and I integrate back in and I feel more and I recognize all these things, traumas and everything. We're not really raising our hand saying that. It's just happening. And so the physical evolution has all these different phases in it as well. Right. And different ways that we're going to experience it. The why, like why now? It's like, if you start a snowball, why does it get bigger and bigger and bigger? Because that's just the way that's just the natural state of shifting. Now, let's also remember, because, there's people on here that are going to say, well, my family isn't experiencing that. My friends aren't experiencing it. Of course, the entire human collective is in this fishbowl, but everyone isn't going to be in the same phase and experience. There's always going to be the next phase that's opening, right? And then there's still the other phases that are opened that humanity is starting to step into, right? So there's all these different phases of the evolution, and there's hundreds of millions of people that aren't even aware that there's an evolution, that they're in something, right? So, the people that are feeling very lonely, very confused, I'm not doing this right, I don't know how to do this. It's because you're in the initial new phase. So there's nowhere to turn. No one's going to teach you. You're going to feel alienated. You're going to feel alone. You're going to feel isolated. It's because you're on the front lines of that new phase.
Do you think that being aware of the changes make it faster?
Yeah.
Speeding up the process.
100%. Awareness is the number one key to all of this. There's all this light coming down onto the planet, increasing the frequency of the body. Okay. And that increasing frequency in the body happens, but the awareness of the human persona has to participate in it in some capacity. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen. And so the more that there is an awareness around what you're in, what you're experiencing, the faster you'll start moving through it. So awareness requires feeling. It requires listening to the thoughts. It requires non-judgment as much as possible, because the more you judge, the more you're anchoring something. So if you're like, this isn't good, this shouldn't be happening, I need to get out of this, I need to fix that, that's judgment. And that anchors it. Awareness doesn't judge. Awareness just sees. It just feels. It's just like curiosity, like, oh my God, what else? What else? What else? So the more that you can drop into that curiosity that we were talking about, and just the simple awareness of what's happening, what I'm doing, what I'm feeling, you're going to feel everything. And awareness just understands that. Like, oh, today you tapped into anger. Wow. What shifts is how you react and respond to the anger. That's what shifts. And you start to, the anger starts to be is processed in different ways. And then the anger starts to dissolve, and then there's not as much anger showing up. But this feeling like we have to push aside or reject or deny or change certain emotions because we don't like them is not awareness.
About that, is there any daily practice that can help readers maintain emotional and spiritual stability during the times of intense changes?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I started really practicing awareness is I would just start very, very simply with like, oh, I'm now hungry. I'm aware of being hungry. I'm now going to take a shower. I'm aware of getting out of bed and going and taking a shower. I started with the simple things. I started to just be aware of, I'm walking to my car. Oh, I'm now looking at a tree. Like, how often through your day can you just be aware of what you're doing? You're starting to pull yourself away from being the experience, and you're now starting to watch the experience. And the more you can do that, the more you'll start to notice immediately when you have an emotion. And you want to recognize, oh, I'm feeling sadness. So there's a tad bit of a separation, but you're still feeling it. Oh, I'm feeling anger. I'm feeling irritable right now. And then you start to be humbled by the fact that the emotion is taking you meaning you're on the ride and you're, reacting and responding in that state, which is fine. Or you're stuck in the sadness, which is fine. But if you have the awareness around it, you move through it faster. There's nothing to fix. There's nothing to change. It's a movement. It's a movement. And that shifts your entire being.
I think that we can expect some higher beings trying to direct contact with us.
If I were to be brutally honest, on, December 23rd, 2024, do not seek knowledge and information from things that are outside of your physical body, other than God. Don't. That's just my recommendation right now. I would say go into your own soul, go into your own intuition, go into your physical body. It's the safest place you will ever be. It's the only place that you are safe is inside your body and inside your own awareness and your own soul and your own knowledge, and then go directly to whatever you think God is. But I would not play around right now with trying to contact things. I just wouldn't. Unless you're well versed at playing in those realms, I wouldn't do it right now. We are being trained to go into soul right here. We're being trained to come back home to God, which is in here, right? So we're being trained to be what people call Christ consciousness, right? Which is, the Christ consciousness is just knowing that you are soul in here, you're God in here, and how to live from that state, which is not easy at all. But if you keep kind of going out and trying to tap into these other energies and knowledge and information, it's just going to prolong the next phase of this evolution, which is the physical phase, which means that we have to come into the body. And when we start coming in, we start realizing, oh, I am soul. I am God. I am everything. I have everything I need here. I don't need to go out and seek and search and try to get that. And it's too chaotic. It's too chaotic, you guys. Don't do it right now. Just do this. While it's getting simultaneously getting louder on the planet, you're going to be at the same time pulled to get quieter. And so trust that, like follow the inner guidance that you're getting. Follow what your body wants. Follow it. If it says, don't go hang out with this person today, don't go hang out with them. If your body says, please lay in bed all day, lay in bed all day if you can, right? Some of us can't. I get that. If your body is saying, you know, turn off the music, turn off music. If your body is saying, go listen to music, like listen to what the body needs. And pay attention to how you feel with everything that you're consuming right now. We're consuming things on such a level that we don't even realize we're consuming it. Consuming it meaning we're always on our phones or always on our computers or there's always something that we're taking in. Always. I mean, there's very few people I see without their phones. And so you're always taking in, and you want to just start to become aware of that. And just be aware of, oh, I want more information. I'm trying to find more information. And okay, what's happening inside of me that I, you know, what does the body also want? And what we're trying to remember more and more throughout our days is that I am soul. Like, I'm not Lorie. I'm playing a character called Lorie, and she's pretty badass, and it's a great character to play. But it's the soul playing a character. It's a soul playing the character. And so the more that we can start to wrap our heads, our minds, our awareness around, oh wait, I am soul. Like it's actually an essence inside of me. Like it leaves the body when the body dies. It comes into the body and becomes this character. So what is soul? And so throughout my days for the past year, I've been focused on, I am soul, I am soul, I am soul. What would soul say? What would soul do? How would soul feel about that experience? How would soul respond to this person that's yelling at me? Now, the chances of, saying this throughout your day are slim because you just were not used to practicing this, but start practicing it. Especially if you're going to, family events or outside activities and you're engaging with people, I am soul. That's a soul. That's a soul. That's a soul. That's a soul. Just start recognizing, oh my God, that's a soul. Like there's a soul inside there. And then, when you have something difficult that you have to sort of make a decision on, ask, what would soul do? If you're about to have a really rough conversation with someone, what would soul say? The thing about that is that you have the answer immediately. Nobody sits there that I've ever asked, well, what would your soul say right now about that question? It is immediate. It's not like, well, let me sit and call in my soul. No. Well, no one has ever done that. I'm not sure what my soul would say. Every time I've ever asked anybody when they have a question about something, I don't understand why I have so much anxiety. Well, what would your soul say? Boom. It's immediate. Because
so it's like guts.
Yeah. Because you are soul. So you answer it. And then you're like, well, that was amazing. We just don't remember how to do this. We don't realize we're actually soul disguised as this human character. And so it's starting to become aware, not with this like thinking mind of like, well, what does it actually mean? And how am I supposed to actually feel this? And like, well, how do I know it's soul? Maybe it's something else. And like, well, do I need to do some steps to be able to begin to step into soul? Like we're very like, we make it very difficult. No, just say I am soul. What would soul say? What would soul? And don't overthink it. Don't overdo it. Just practice that. And it'll change your life. We're all given the answer. right? But then we don't trust it. So then we have to go out to somebody else who does not have the highest answer for you. They don't. You do.
Polish people, in my opinion, it's my observation, have a huge challenge with trusting themselves, because we were brought the way that, like, put the hat on. It doesn't matter if you're cold or hot. Just put the hat on. Eat this, eat that, do this, do that. Just don't think. Just do it, like other kids. And we lost the connection with our inner voice, saying all the time that this is what you need right now. This is what you need right now. And that's why Polish people are really awakened at the moment. But we need to get into speed, because our history is very, very heavy with the wars and occupation, and very tough childhoods. And right now we're waking up, and it's such a fast pace, and there's so many programs to, and emotions and traumas to process. It's huge.
It's huge.
So we're reading so many books, and we're trying so hard and not to miss anything.
What you've said are really powerful points, and there's a humbleness to that. It's like, it makes sense that you don't want to miss it. Once you start to wake up, you don't, that I don't want to miss it is the fear of going back. It's the fear of like, if I don't get it right, or if I don't do it, then what has happened in the past may happen. I may find, like, you once you break free, there's so much fear over what you just broke free from, that it's like, oh my God, I better make sure that this is done correctly, so that I don't go back to that. And you can't ever go back to what was when you awaken, but it's the deep, deep patterning of how you have been programmed to live is still going to show up in the process of awakening. So the pressure that people have placed on you guys, the fears that you have literally within your DNA is there. The imprisonment, like that, there's no way I can actually be free, really deep down. And I'm not talking about free from occupation. I'm talking about free from doing it your way. There's just no way. I can't, how can I possibly be free? So there's all these like real heavy generational energies that are also clearing from your systems, from your bodies. And that hasn't been done before. There isn't a Polish person that's writing a book about already being out of what you guys are in. But what you're in is teaching you exactly what you need to hear. What you're in is teaching you. So it's when I don't trust my intuition, okay, that's what's teaching me. Wow, how curious. I'm not trusting my intuition. Have I always been this way? What does it, have I ever trusted my intuition? Why am I not trusting? You just get curious with like, that's interesting. And with that, you start to flow, you start to break free, you start to relax, you start to see it. But every country is different. My grandma on my dad's side was Polish. She told us really some real insane stories. I'll never forget the story she told us. You know, it's real heavy. You know, United States, we don't have that. You know, I mean, if you have it from your ancestors, you know, your grandmothers or your great grandparents in the United States, then yeah, you sort of have it. But we don't experience the evolution in the same way that other countries do. You know, and that's not spoken about either. Different countries have different experiences through their evolution because they have different traumas, that they're deep traumas. I'm not talking about, you know, things that happen to you in your childhood. I'm talking about deep, deep ancestral trauma that you were born into. So that gets cleared. Each country and each culture has their own set of programs that they've experienced on that land. Each culture has to break out of those deeper sets of programs, and that's really challenging.
Before we finish, maybe there's something you feel, you sense like you want to share and say to Polish people who will be interested in reading your book, and maybe something extra, but will that book help us somehow?
if you can just hold this book, or hold the book in your hand, or just listen, about to start the audio, know that you're not in charge, that you're not doing anything. There is something that can happen without the knowledge, without the information, without the mind. Because what's happening to a lot of countries, the whole world, but countries that have been so deeply traumatized with massive control, is that you're safest in the mind. You're really safe in the mind. There's information and knowledge. And as long as you have information and knowledge, you'll feel safe. Being able to drop back down into the body and trust the body again is really where you're going. And so let this book, let it enter the body. So let it do it. The most powerful thing it can do by letting it enter the body. And the way you do that is that you say, okay, I don't need to know anything. I don't need to gain anything from this book. I'm just going to let the book do what it does. And it will give you the highest outcome, which will not be from the mind. It will be an experience in the body. And it's not something you do. It's just something you will be. So again, how do I do that? You just pick up the book and say, okay, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to try to get anything. I'm going to just let this book, as if it's its own entity, it's its own beingness, that it knows what to do, that it has the power, that it's going to do something. And when I pick it up and read it out of curiosity and just, oh, this is interesting, instead of like, okay, well, what's it going to teach me? And am I going to be able to understand it? And am I going to be able to get something from it? Is it going to activate my light codes? Like, no, don't do any of that. Just hold the book, open the book, have fun, play in it, be curious, and let it do what it's designed to do. And you're not in control of that. Right. So it's like, okay, I'm just going to I don't need to get anything from this book. And then the book will do its magic. It's actually life.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good break for us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's very difficult when you talk about like the history of Poland and the Polish people, because it's a different lens that you guys are having to step out of than people in the United States. So it's more difficult to say, oh, life is perfect. It's very, very difficult. It's very difficult to say, oh, just relax into chaos. There's an unsafety in that. And to feel safe, you have to be in control. And to be in control means that you need to be making all the decisions. So think about that. It's very difficult for Polish people to say, okay, I'm going to just let go. I'm going to trust. I'm going to, so you're just really having compassion for yourself and what you chose to be born into and what you are navigating out of. Really start to have compassion for that piece. And there's nothing wrong with how any of us are navigating it. Nothing. It's not our faults. It takes a lot of courage to do it. And if we can give ourselves that hall pass, kind of, where it's like, it's okay. You're coming out of some intensity. You're coming out of some heaviness. Like, it makes perfect sense. Of course.
Okay.
All right.
That's amazing. That was something. Thank you so much. It was lovely seeing you.
You too. Take care.